sit on this side of the floor. So, we're sitting in chairs that have been here since 1880. So, would you sit up, please, and not put feet on the chair? Thank you. These are old chairs. They've been here since 1886. Really good care. Okay. This is what was called the Supreme Court. Now, they ran out of space here about 14 years ago. They built a new building just to the south of us. It still looks like it's been here a long time, but it's only 42 years old. And so now they use this room for those committee meetings, kind of like I told you about those committee meetings they have on the other side. They use this for that as well. This is a great room to see those design, no wallpaper. That's all hand stencil art. This is all real gold. This is all hand carved. And then they took the marble and put it in the lower parts of the wall. So this is a great example of what we talk about now. But the Supreme Court met here. This is the last room in the chapel. And this is where they had their trials. So we talked a little bit about some of it, I think, next door. But you are from the clay cabinet, right? Okay. So if somebody commits a crime and they go on trial, it's going to happen with the clay cabinet. They don't have witnesses and juries at the Iowa Supreme Court. If for some reason they think something wasn't done correctly in the trial, they can appeal. And they can appeal that verdict all the way up to the Iowa Supreme Court. It can take years for it to get here. And so they don't have witnesses and juries here. They have them at home in the courthouse, but not here. Here they're just trying to make sure the laws are fairly applied, so they use law books a lot. So if you go back through that door, there's a spiral staircase that goes up. From here, see my pointer? From here to here, this was one from the Dominican Republic. It was a mahogany tree. That's an Iowa South Florida tree. And it was all hand carved. Mr. Pinkfine, he brought it back and stored it on our property for 12 years. He wanted to use it for something special. He was the guy that basically took the architect's plans and built our building. He was very particular. It was a fabulous building. But he wasn't always kind in the way he said things to people. And he did not want a day labor. All the rest of our building was carved by people that were hired on a daily basis. We hired them at the end of the day, they did the work. At the end of the day, we checked the work and paid them, and the next day, everybody would come back and try to hire him. And so he didn't want that. He wanted one person to carve the whole project. Big please. Thank you. And so he advertised in Chicago, and he was expecting a person who might have been doing this for a long time. And the person that showed up was in his early 20s and was short. And Mr. Finkbine's first words to him, not always being kind in how he spoke, was, well, I was expecting a man to apply, not a boy. And that wasn't a very nice thing to say, was it? So he must have let him carve on a daily basis and realized he really was a master carver. He learned at a very young age from his German immigrant and probably had a father who was a carver. So he hired him. He carved this part eventually in his 20s, from year to year. And then what makes this kind of a fun story is that as our state grew, they needed more places for justices to sit. And so they asked him to come back and carve it, so with extra pieces so they would match. But you know what? It was 40 years later. So he was in his 60s when he carved this. And he was in his 20s when he carved this. And you can't tell the difference in quality of the work. He really was that good. And I know he was a consultant when he was first hired. There's a lot of articles that you read about different parts of the Capitol. And he was interviewed for a newspaper article, and he was 80 years old. He was at a reunion here in Des Moines. And he was quoted as saying, I have never eat their work. So even at 80, he wanted to take that back. That there's, he just, couldn't let go of the fact that Mr. Pinkman thought he wasn't old. So there's lots of symbolism. What does an owl stand for? What have you heard an owl stands for? Wisdom. Well, there's an owl carved right there. And the Chief Justice or the head of the Supreme Court would have sat behind that owl. So there's also a little snail right there. And I think that kind of is his impression of the fact that it's a traditional system for it to get down here and take years. So if you don't have any other questions about the room or the bench, we're going to go off and touch it. So any other questions? Yes.
I might have missed this. Is it open, like these meetings, are they open to the public?
Yes, they are. If you, this is the same as some of the other rooms. You can come and sit in these chairs. You can travel all the way down to Spencer and listen to what they're going to say, where they're talking about all the different bills that they think might make good laws, but you can't say anything at this point. Then it goes to a subcommittee, and again, they'll decide if it should move on. They're the public can come and they can also talk there. It gets a little heated, I guess, because people have different ideas about what shouldn't be a law. And so yes, you can come and watch these meetings, you just can't say anything at this point. So, okay, good question. Everybody stand up. Follow me, use 1 to 2 fingers. See, you can tell the difference between the green and the outside.
Camden! Oh God. Nate, I'm not pushed. That's what you always say.
Okay, so after you see
Okay, Nate, I got pushed. Excuse me.
I'm
literally.
It's big and heavy. The next glass is new. You may touch that. And then also the hinges are
Ow.
they're also
Suck it. There's no snail. She's just lying. There is no snail. She's just lying. They're corn. Oh, I feel so good. So dusty. Dusty divots. Oh, I see a snail. Come on, there is a snail. Where's the snail? I don't know. It's in my mouth. Yeah, where is the snail? Boom! 5 fingers. 10 fingers.
Stay down on the floor, please. Thank you.
Do you see Earth? You're actually who's streaming this? What? Is that a baby?
Okay, everybody, go ahead and have a seat. Just keep it in the middle. We're not going to block the edges, all right? All right. So this is the grand staircase. This is, the steps are made of granite, sitting on granite, but the banister is made out of marble. And we're going to feel that cold marble when we go up. We're all going to go single file. We're going to use the handrail, and you're going to feel how cold real stone is. Our architect was born in Paris, and he trained over there and moved to the United States. And that's one of the reasons that our building has so many European nuances to it, kind of a lot of European things about it. Those are beautiful French bronze statues that have been here since our building was built. And then if you look around these pillars, there's white alabaster swags that go around the pillars. And they're hand-carved like everything else in the building. But there's birds, ladybugs, and butterflies carved in on this side. And over on this side, there's 2 lizards that are fighting right there in the front. And then there's a bat and a snake back there on this back side. So go ahead and stand up and go and take a look at one side or the other. And then I want you to form a line here in front of
Oh, is he biting his head? Biting kind of bad in the snake.
No. Follow directions. What I say? Why are you trying to?
Here's the bait. Zeros. What's right there? Oh. Find it yet, Brandon? Where's the snake?
I don't know what a snake is.
Those toes are unusual. Yeah, right up in the middle.
Oh, thank you. All right, so everybody now, we're going to make another line behind me. We're going to hold on to the marble.
cold it is. What's up, beautiful man? Can you feel the coldness?
God, I kind of have to be.
I can feel it. Wow.
Don't look down. Don't look down. Unless you want to look down right here. Somebody say about this. Somebody
So everybody come stand in front of me.
Right, so this painting that you're looking at inside that gold frame is called the Wedding. That's the oil painting on canvas that we painted in New York. We asked them to paint that for us. It shows the people. And so my favorite part was
You see these faces? There's about 10 or 15 faces. Everybody see the faces?
Yeah.
They're hidden. And that's the artist's interpretation of those were all the future generations that were going to be born, that hadn't been born yet, that were going to be born in the West. So that's a really cool, I think, aspect of that painting. Question about that painting?
like, or it could be the pilgrims.
Could be the pilgrims, but the artist kind of alluded that he thought it was people that hadn't been born yet. But you know, the artists can do whatever they can. They have lots of imagery that they talk about. Now to look up underneath those artist panels, and those look like paintings. When you get up close to those, you're going to see that those are little tiny pieces of glass, about the size of my little finger. And they put those together almost like puzzles. They call them mosaics. They were made in Italy, so they're Italian. And we're going to see some really fun illusions. Now look over here on the left and see where the flag is. You see the gentleman with the yellow over there? We're going to be in this corner, and his feet are going to be pointing at us. And if you walk across the front of him, and you watch his feet, they'll be moving. And if you look and they're pointing the other way, when you get on the other side of it. And they don't really move, but they look like they do. And then the lady next to him that's holding the baby, her eyes are going to follow you kind of like the Mona Lisa's eyes. So we'll talk more about that when we get up there and point that out again. But you're going to get to touch them and see how they put them together. Again, little pieces of glass about the size of our little finger. So, questions? Okay, let's go take a look at this one. Yes. You may take a picture. You may take pictures right now, yeah? Well, there's
No, love seats are not allowed. Oh, love seat. Let's get on the love seat. Everybody on the love seat. Okay.
okay.
Wait, can I look
All right, I want you, boys and girls, I want you to follow me.
This is uneven. Oh my. What's wrong? Nolan, are you scared? Oh,
Imagine you accidentally dropping your phone. Donald Trump.
It's Trump.
So, we'll have a seat.
Now, we can't touch the desks, boys. Boys, we can't touch the desks, okay? Come on. Everybody kind of come up close to me because if the other group comes in, I don't want to have to speak too loud and interfere with their tool. All right. So, you know that we are, well, you know where we are?
State capital,
Yep, that's right. You are right. Now, let's get a little bit, let's drill down a little bit. What branch of government is represented by the room we're in? Now, we were in the court system. Remember, we were there. We were in the Supreme Court before. There's only two left. There's executive and there's the legislative. The executive manages the state, and the legislative does what? Makes the laws. Right. So which branch of government is housed here? The making of the laws process, the legislative branch. There are two groups that make laws. They have to both agree, and that's always a hard thing sometimes for them to do. But they have to both agree to the same wording. But the people in this room are called senators, and there's 50 senators, and the people in the room straight across the way, they're called the House of Representatives. And the way they divide it up is that, you know, where you live, there's not as many people as where I live, right? In Des Moines, we have millions of people in one county. And so if Polk counties vote counted just the same as Clay counties vote, it'd be very lopsided in terms of my vote wouldn't count very much, and your vote would count a lot more than mine. And so they want to make it equal. So what they do is they do it based on population. And so they take Iowa, which has about 3 million people, and they divide it into segments of 60,000 people each. So there's 50 groups of 60,000 people. So up where you live, you've got to be put together with some extra counties. Down here, they take Polk County and they cut it into different sections. So everybody is, every senator represents a group of 60,000 people. And then basically how we have 100 people in the House. There's twice as many in the House. And so what they do is they take a Senate district and they cut it in half based on population. And then there is a representative that represents each of those 30,000 segment groups. So there's 50 in the Senate, 100 in the House. In the House of Representatives, all of them, they go for 2 years at a time. And so all of them are up for election or re-election this November. But in here, half the senators will be up for election and re-election, the other half in the middle of their term, so then they'll go in another 2 years. So that's kind of the difference between the two. But it doesn't matter where a bill starts, but the bill has to go through both groups and they have to approve the same wording, all right? So this is where that bill about no recess would come up into the floor. We call it coming into the floor of the House and the Senate. Now, they come here the second Monday in January. They're here about 3 to 4 months. They're here every year. And what happens is that this is their only desk. This is the senator sits here. They hire a clerk that helps with their paperwork that sits there. And they don't have other offices unless they have a leadership position, unless they're in charge of something. So let's say that bill has come to the floor and they've read it out loud that the bill proposes that there be no recess in Iowa in elementary, middle, or high school. And so now they're going to talk about it. They're going to debate it. They're going to decide. They're going to give their opinion. So let's say this gentleman pushes that white button right there. You see that button? They're going to push it. The people up there in the front, other people are going to push the button too, because I'm sure there's a lot of commentary on this particular bill. And the president of the Senate, who sits in that tall black leather chair. Now that's not related at all to the president of our country. That is a person that's elected from all the people that are in this room. So that person, it's a he at this point in time, would sit up there and would say Senator Jones, you have the floor. We're very formal in here. And so then Senator Jones would stand up and pull his microphone back, and they would turn his microphone on, and he'd say, well, I think it's a good idea because I think they need to have more time with their school and their books, okay? And so then, so he said what his opinion was and why, and then everybody else. So let's say that the fella over, the lady over here, pushes her white button and she's next to talk. And so she stands up and she says, well, I disagree with Senator Jones. I think that it should not become a law because I think recess contributes to children burning off energy and it helps them exercise and helps them keep a regular weight, okay? So then maybe there's other people that give those opinions and then they'll vote, okay? And when they vote, all their names are on these two outer screens right there. And it's their last names. And when they vote, they push the green button here for yes. And every desk has one of these panels, they just pop up and down. So they push the green button for yes, and their name will change to a green color. And then they'll push the red button for no, and their name will change to a red color. Everybody knows how everybody votes. Now, we would never be down here when they're in session, because like I said, they're very formal, and the public does not come onto the floor. But we could go up there in the gallery anytime. You don't have to buy a ticket, you don't have to show ID, you don't have to pay any admission, but you do have to be polite. You can't yell at it, and you can't have a protest sign. But you could protest down in the rotunda, but just not up here, okay? And so when they vote, they push their button, their names change color. So how many, and I think we already talked about this, I've given several today, but how many have to say, yeah, we did, we talked about it in the first one we were in. How many have to say yes out of 50 senators for it to move on?
11.
Out of 50 senators?
Oh, 50.
50. That 11 was the movie. You're right about that. So think about it. So 50, what's one more than half of 50? What's half of 50? 25. And one more is 26. So 26 or more have to say yes. Okay, and if that happens, then they're going to go over to the other room, and the people in the House, there's 100 people in the House, and they'll go through the same process, and then they'll vote, and how many out of 100 representatives have to say yes, they think it's a good idea?
51.
51 or more, right. And then they spend a lot of time on it. So let's say that it passed, that means no recess, because the bill said there will be no recess in the schools. And so it passed by a slim margin, 51 and 26, but that still passed. So is it become a law because they've already spent so much time on it? There's something else that has to happen. What has to happen?
Doesn't it have to go to like the court? Doesn't it have to go to the court?
No, it won't have to go to the court. It has to go to the other branch of government, the executive branch. Who's the head of the Iowa executive branch? Well, she's disagreeing with the bill, but there's a formal word for it. Starts with a V.
Vice versa.
Well, she's voting no. You're voting no, and you've got some of the right letters. Veto. That's a formal word in the making of the laws arena to say, nope, not going to sign it. I'm not going to sign it. I don't want it to be a law. But so it probably wouldn't become a law because they didn't have very many votes over half to begin with, right? But if they wanted to, they could call it back to the House and the Senate. And if 2/3 of each group said, I want that to be a law, and they didn't have enough votes to do that, so I'm sure it happened. But then they can do what they call override it, and it'll still become a law whether the governor wants to sign it or not. And that hardly ever happens, but that possibility exists, and that's that checks and balances that you'll learn about as you get older to make sure that no one branch of government or one person gets too much power. So that's kind of how, but obviously they're not going to have that be a bill because that nobody's think that'd be a very good idea. So yes.
So if you're in the public or like up in the stands and they say something and like you have something to say about it, would you like raise your hand and say something about it?
Nope. If you tried to do that too many times, they would escort you out.
Or arrest you?
Yes. Yep, that both sides is are considered the gallery, all open to the public. Yes. It has to be more than 25. It has to be 26 or more. Okay? Because it's got, you know, that to have a new law, that's a big deal. And you don't want to have it just be, you know, oh yeah, I think we could do that. I mean, you know, it needs to be, it's gonna make Iowa a better place. So, yes.
So has, like when they were voting, has it ever tied before?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what
Yep.
if they do?
But now let's say who was it that asked if could they say something if they
Rock,
disagree?
paper, scissors.
Okay, yeah, well, we're not gonna do rock, paper, scissors. That's not big enough or good enough for getting a new law. But you know what you could do, but you'd need to do it now, guys, you'd need to do this way before they were voting, okay? Because you want to be able to get a hold of your legislator. You, when you're 18, will elect people to come down here. Your parents elect people to come down here, and they represent your area. And they love to hear from the people that elect them about what they think of the bills. Because they're just regular folks. You know, your parents could all run for to be a senator or representative. There's no educational requirement. You just have to be good enough to convince the people in your district that you would do a good job representing them. So they're not experts in every single topic, and they want to hear if this particular bill is a bad idea or a good idea for you. How is it going to affect you? And that helps form their opinion. And so if you communicate with them either an email, or you call them, or you send them a snail mail letter, or you do come down to the Capitol, and there's a little desk out there, and you fill out a form, and you put down your phone number, and they'll come out and meet with you, or they'll call and set a time to meet with you, and then you can give them your opinion. But once it gets to the point where they're voting, you're past being able to give them your opinion. So, okay, good questions, good questions. Any questions about how a bill is passed into law? And then we're going to talk about the room now. Okay, this is the way the House of Representatives used to look before the fire. This kind of art, not the same pictures, but this style. Very, very ornate. You've got big borders in here. You've got bright colors in the skylight and in the curtains and the carpet. You've got paintings of people at either end of the room on the ceiling, just like you'd find in a museum. In all four corners of the room, you've got a style of painting that's called trompe-l'oeil. That's a French word that means fool your eye. Now, why would they say that that picture down there fools your eye? That's probably the easiest one to look at because of the lights. Why would they say it fools your eye?
Illusion.
It's an optical illusion. It looks like it sticks. It almost looks like somebody said once that there's a statue up there. Looks like it sticks out, doesn't it? But that's actually perfectly smooth, and so it's actually flat. If you got up there on the ladder and ran your hand across it, so they do all that with shadows. The chandeliers in here, these are my favorite in the whole building. These are brass. They're made out of brass, but they were gas. And they sent them down to St. Louis, and they converted them over to electric, and they rehung them. And they weigh 500 pounds, and they lower these down once a year to change the light bulbs and to clean them, and then they raise them back up. And so this is what it looked like over in the other room before they had the fire. So kind of, you can take pictures right now with your cameras. You can also take pictures with your eyes, and when we get over to the other side, you're going to see what we see that looks different. Okay? And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take them now.